Welcome to the weekly signature office meeting. We've got lots of info for you today. But before we start, I was asked to introduce the panel. I'm Janet. I'm a broker. Here's another broker. Here's another broker. And there's another broker. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jason from Prosperity Lending. Dr. Jason is in the house.
Woo. Yes, I am not a broker. I am a doctor, obviously, because I play one on TV. But I'm here to talk about the doctorate program. Maybe you've heard a little bit about it. This is an exciting thing that's out there. Have you ever heard from a doctor that, my gosh, I've been turned down from other lenders because I have too much student loan debt? That's really what this thing is built for. This thing doesn't take student loan debt into account. So a lot of your people that might have been told no in the past, we get to tell them yes. The other thing that's really exciting about this program too is that you can go all the way up to $1 million and in some cases even higher with only 5% down. And these people don't pay mortgage insurance, so it's a really exciting program too. As you see on the screen, it's for medical doctors, for dentists, dental surgeons, and veterinarians. But what's really cool and something that we can market to as well is it's for new students that are just getting out, that are in their fellowships, that have just basically started in the world. All those people by other lenders, I can almost guarantee are being told no. We get to tell those people yes. So we're going to places like UNLV. We're trying to get out and let those students know that when they graduate, they can go right into home ownership. So if you want any more information, of course, reach out to any of the lenders over at Prosperity Lending. We're happy to tell you all about it and tell a doctor we can help.
That's pretty good stuff. I wish I was a doctor.
Sage advice from Dr. Jason.
Oh, I got some good things I could say.
Whatever you're thinking, Tom, just let it go.
I'm going to let it go. But I'll bring it up later. I'll work it into the thing that we're going to
That is pretty cool, though, up to $1 million with no mortgage insurance.
Yeah, no mortgage insurance. Let's bury the doctors even further right out of school.
No, but it doesn't have to be a plastic surgeon. It can be a veterinarian. I mean, any type of doctor.
Even a dentist. Now, can you imagine the dental rates are going to go skyrocketing now? Because they got to have a big old house payment they need to pay. That's okay.
It's a cool program, though.
It is a cool program. I jest.
We need more doctors in Vegas.
Yes, so let's bring them here.
Because there's a lot wrong with Tom.
They'll have to stay because they're buried in debt.
So we do have a great sales meeting planned for you guys today, and the topic is one that I think is really interesting, and it's about making money in a seller's market and all of the different ways you can make money. And Todd, we were talking about it this last week about business planning. We went into business planning, and we're at the end of the first quarter. And now it's time for a checkup.
Yeah, so
not to put a pun on the doctor.
Another doctor checkup.
It only costs him 5% to say that.
That's right.
It's the end of the first quarter, right? So April 1st is Thursday. So it's time to check out your business. Did it perform in the first quarter like you expected it to? Did it do the things that you wanted to? And are there some things that you need to change, or is there some new prospecting that you need to put into place, or some new things to try in your business in the next quarter?
And so before we get into that, we had a pretty exciting week last week here at Signature. Had a number of events going on. Janet, you had the first happy hour that you've had of this new world that we live in. How was it?
It was actually great. I bought all the wine.
One bottle?
Gallon size.
One box.
And he knows nothing about wine. And then everybody that came was supposed to bring an hors d'oeuvre, and we had some really great food. We had a great turnout. Our whole front living area was full. We said goodbye to Becky Dunn, who's been working in our office ever since we reopened after being shut down.
Yep.
And it was a fun time. And then at the end, guess what? Everybody pitched in and helped clean up. It was just wonderful.
Oh, nice.
So we'll probably do it again the end of April.
That's why I always leave early in
Far
most
cry
parties.
from my whiskey tasting. Far cry from my whiskey tasting.
Oh, and we did. We had a whiskey tasting.
Yeah, everybody got drunk
office.
and left.
Yeah. Oh man, that was an experience. So it was all for PSF, and what they did is they brought you in like 6 little tiny ounce bottles of whiskey. Well, people that don't drink whiskey, Tom and I are seasoned, or we need seasoning, I don't know. But either way, you would just see these people on Zoom. They're all at home, drinking, and they're just sliding down their chairs as they're watching this thing go on. But it was a good time.
So after 6 bottles of whiskey, even though
6 shots. Right, you got 6 shots, right?
6 tastings.
Yeah.
6 tastings.
Takes you down, huh?
Anyway, we also have going on right now, if you guys have seen it in the Southwest office, the Academy. Brandon has been working for a month to make the Academy the great event that it is. And we have about 45 people that showed up yesterday. They were
Yeah.
here all day, putting in a full day's work, and right now they're out there prospecting. So
And the amazing thing is that 45 showed up today.
They did.
Because they knew they were going to make the calls.
they did.
So,
and
they do the work.
They all were talking about the business sources we're going to talk about. Brandon spent the whole day on it. But what's interesting is now they're making the phone calls, actually making the contacts, and you could see the fear in their eyes as it was coming together of, oh my God, tomorrow I got to make phone calls. But we've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been there.
A couple of other things that are going on. Janet, you always remind us that MLS fees are now due again. $300 will come out of your account if you are set up on auto pay or you've already paid it off. But for that great MLS service that Tom and Janet sit on the MLS committee, you guys are still on it, right?
Still there. Tom's
there?
still there. They haven't kicked him off yet.
Yep.
They try every week, every month.
Wouldn't
I said
you?
every month.
Wouldn't
Yes,
you?
Every
Yeah.
month. I said, How do we get it to Tom?
So make sure that you've gone on and you set up your payment for your MLS fees so
That's
that,
a bad shot.
that you're there. So
Well, let me just say this about that too, Chris. Now, here's the thing. When you paid your dues, if you didn't pay on time in January, you incurred a late fee.
yeah.
So, but you still had MLS access because your MLS fees were paid. But now, if you don't pay your MLS fees, they're due by April 1st, late, and you can pay up to April 5th, but after April 1st, you incur a $50 late fee, no refunds. And then not only that,
refunds.
but if you haven't paid by April 5th, guess what? You have no access
I know.
to MLS.
They're going to take out all the listings so I can't search them. Oh no, that's just the
You
inventory.
can't get in to find out what they are.
Yeah.
The three that are there?
Just
$300.
pay the $300 today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, don't be charged $50 unnecessarily and give them more money than they actually need.
Yeah, they don't need it.
No.
You actually talked about, Tom, that you're teaching because it's been a big topic about comparative market analysis on properties for listings. You're going to teach a class on it.
Yeah, I don't know what day next week. That's still to be determined, but I will be doing something next week on CMAs, how to do it, and how to figure out exactly what the heck's going on so you don't look like an idiot when you say, I can sell it for $350,000, and then you sell it for $400.
Yeah.
So we're going to put that in there and see how it all goes.
I can't wait to attend
I
that
know.
class.
I
Well,
know.
Chris,
Me either.
You also taught a class last week in Green Valley.
I did?
That's recorded, right? I think it's on.
Oh, I did. I thought that was the week before the
Yeah,
the
the
buyer
Oh, the
broker.
buyer broker agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so it was
that's
about
good.
the buyer broker agreement and how to get your clients to sign
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So if you didn't attend that or see that when it was streaming, it's available on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, and it was nice to get out there and talk about it because with all the things that are coming at us as an industry, those that work by an agreement will be better prepared for sure and defending their dollars. Janet, you brought up
There it is,
Oh,
right
look at
there.
that.
There it is. That's a
that's-
photo of me.
Whoa.
I'm still that handsome in person.
That's Chris.
I'm not wearing that shirt today, thank God. So
What's wrong with my shirt?
I know, right? One of the things that came up that we were talking about was the multiple offer notice that came out from Nevada Realtors, and Janet brought it up, and that originally came out in 2004 by the commission, a white paper from the real estate division, and the idea that you should not knowingly take one buyer and have them write multiple offers only buying one property. You should definitely not do it if you're not familiar with the process, but they were going over how it's a legal nightmare for attorneys and drives them crazy and all the other things.
To quote from the attorney that answered the question about, am I allowed to put offers on 3 different properties simultaneously? Her first sentence of the answer is, this type of practice makes lawyers explode, and it's strongly discouraged.
See, that's not a no. My mother used to say things, you shouldn't do that, I strongly discourage it. She never said
Remember,
that.
underlying every contract is the duty of good faith and
Yes.
fair dealing.
Good faith is
Yeah,
the good
that
term.
is
Yeah.
the fair dealing. I mean, is it really fair to tie up, 3 properties
No?
and then, bail on the other 2? It's just, not the right thing to do, and we're sort of setting ourselves up for failure by tying up a bunch of properties, putting them in escrow, and then bailing on them immediately.
The interesting fact still is that you could get multiple offers accepted, right? That's got to take some ingenuity for sure, but the whole point is, we've talked about it before, that if I have a buyer that's only in town for the weekend, and I've got to write an offer, and they're hot to trot to get a property, I can make my offer good for an hour. And I understand that no one's going to respond in an hour, but it's still the point that you have my offer. You know that I wanted the property. but I'm no longer bound to the offer, so I could move on to the next property or to the property after that. But you already have and know that I'm interested.
Yep.
And if I tell you that up front, hey, listen, I got to get this client into a property, I got to hear something right away, and I know that you're waiting for 50 offers, and so you've got mine, we're going to go out and see if we can get a property. That's a big difference versus me just sending you an offer. Yep. And like you said, you could write in terms that say, I'm doing this on a multiple situation. We know that agents don't read contracts, but it's still a point.
I went through this a couple of years ago on a transaction we were working on, and we actually reached out to Jan Hawley at the division and said, hey, what's the division's, like, how are you handling this? What does that look like? And I still have the email somewhere, but essentially what he said was disclosing to the sellers is no different than doing a multiple counter offer when the seller discloses to the buyer that there's multiple offers. So he actually said that at the time, again, a couple of years ago, that they had just fined 2 agents for doing that exact thing because they didn't disclose to the sellers, and the seller has a right to know that your client is writing on more than
They're
one
seeing
offer,
other sellers.
and it needs to be disclosed. And so, I think there's a couple of ways to go after this. It shouldn't be done in secret. Let's be clear about that, right? I mean, you can't write 5 offers and then tell nobody that you're writing 5 offers at the same time.
It's like cheating.
That's unethical. That's definitely.
And the
more
ethics is
costly
the key
problem.
word. That's a realtor standard, is that you're bound to be an ethical agent. You can be a licensee and not have the same standards, but that's when you're violating state law.
Yeah.
And so I think that it comes in more from our Nevada realtors attorney that how is that ethical that you're doing it in secret? And we see that
And
happen.
here's the thing, we know, not signature agents, but we know it's happening more and more and more because people are going, oh, I sold my listing. Oh God, the buyer's never opened escrow. Well, that's because they had one of their other 3 offers that they really liked better accepted. So this is not fair dealing, and it's strongly discouraged.
And no different than dating, right? Let's put it in the dating.
I can't wait to hear
Look at these
that.
both guys look going.
Here we go.
If you're going to see a bunch of other people,
I just lost 3 viewers.
if you're going to see a bunch of people, be open about it. Let everybody know so they're all on the same footing, because that's what gets you upset. And when you find out, oh, not only were you seeing me and putting an offer on me, you were putting an offer on Janet.
Were you tasting that scotch again this morning?
Yes, I was. But that's serious.
I guess I've got to go home and have a conversation with my wife. Is that what you're saying?
That's a better analogy than I thought was going to come
Yeah,
out of
no
Bob's
kidding.
mouth.
Yeah, I'm always worried.
I'm impressed now.
Well, the whole point is that we're going to talk today about ways that you can, if you're generating enough business and you're generating listings out in the marketplace for your buyers, you won't have to have that problem. So that's what we'll talk about today. But one of the other things that came up this week is they extended the moratorium yet again.
Yeah.
And now we're out to, what is it, June
30th.
30th. Everyone's kind of said at this point it's just noise.
Well, if you really thought it wasn't going to be extended, you really aren't living in reality.
Yeah.
Right? Until things really turn, it would have been nice. Maybe things would have been happening, but look, they just gave out almost $2 trillion. There's some money that's going to go towards the landlords, hopefully. At least we've tried at the state level to talk to the governor and say, hey, let's give some landlords some money without having to have the tenants really put anything into it, because they don't really care, right? They're sitting there without having any issues. So we'll see what happens. It's unfortunate, but yet rather expected.
Yep, and we'll see what happens as the world turns, right?
Well, you have to expect that it's going to continue to get extended until the states reopen and all of the people are able to go back to work and start generating some kind of funds. So it's going to continue to get extended. I mean, again, like Tom said, you're not living in reality if you think that it's just going to end on June 30th. I'm going to predict today that it's going to go all the way to September or October.
Well, by the time it's October, then it's the holidays, and you don't evict somebody during the holidays, and
No.
we know how this works out.
We don't know, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we don't know. We know. You know. All right, so let's move on to our topics. We put together a list. I've got a list of about 50 things on it, which we won't get to all of them. But so we're going to highlight in these some ways that you guys have gotten business from it. And first up, I think, is the one that every single agent, if you're out there and you don't have one, or you've never put it together, or you've ever talked about it.
Divorce attorney?
No. Your sphere of influence. Right? Good agents right now that have a good sphere of influence are being blessed.
sometimes divorce attorneys go with.
In your
that.
sphere of
So,
influence,
I know,
yeah.
right?
But they're being blessed with referrals of people wanting to list their home. And if you're getting listings that way, it's probably the most excitement you'll get all year. But you have a database, right?
Yeah, well, let me just say this about your sphere. They've all been affected by the pandemic in different ways. And my opinion is that it's our job as agents to check in on them, to call them, see how they're doing. It isn't necessarily our job to call them and hound them about buying or selling a house, but it's just to be a conduit for them to maybe vent or say, hey, this is kind of what's going on in my life, and here's what I need to get done, and hey, I have this question. And I would encourage everyone to reach out to your sphere in a way that is not so real estate related, but more in a way that's, hey, how are you? Is there anything I can do to help? Is there something that you need? What's going on? And I will tell you, I have an agent I coach, and we had a pretty strong conversation last Thursday about prospecting and about talking to people. And I said, look, you're, I don't know if I'll say it. He'll be so mad when he finds out, but I'll make up with him. It'll be okay. I said, look, you make every excuse on why you don't sit down and do your prospecting. And if you're going to be a top agent, if you're going to try to get where you told me you're trying to go, you're going to have to carve that time out in your calendar.
Yep.
It's going to have to be there every single day, and there can be no reasons why you can't prospect. And one of the things that you should be doing is calling your aunts and your uncles and your friends and your past, everybody that you know that's in your sphere. What is your sphere, by the way? It's people that you know, people who like you, and people who will do business with you. I always miss the middle one. Like, that's always been my problem too. Like, the middle, they don't really like, but a lot of people will do business with me, right?
Yes.
So those are the people you should be calling, checking on them. Don't hound them about real estate. Just say, how are you doing? What's going on? How's it going? Anyway, my agent finally decided that he started doing his 1 hour. He said, I can do 1 hour. And I said, okay, I want 2. I'm going to get you to 3 a day.
Yep.
But 1 I'll live with for now. So yesterday he calls me, or he sends me a text, and he has a deal. And
From his sphere?
it's a deal that was already in contract. It's been a huge struggle. If you knew the whole story, you would be in awe that it's even still in escrow. But he texted me yesterday and he says, the tenant who wouldn't vacate the property, who wouldn't leave, has passed away in the home 2
Wow.
days before closing.
Wow.
Yeah, so we talked, and what do we do, and what's all the legalities of that and so forth, and I said, well, one thing that you for sure need to do, because we don't know how he passed, is you need to go and you need to walk the property. And I knew at this moment that he had finally committed to his 1 hour, because
He said, no, I can't do it.
he scheduled that walkthrough at noon instead of at 9 o'clock in the morning when he's supposed to be making his phone call.
That's interesting.
I will just tell you that your sphere, and if you could take that hour a day, call and be their friend.
Yeah.
Don't call and be a real estate agent. Just call and be their friend. And I promise you'll get business from that immediately.
So one of the things I noticed from your business is that you are a large REO agent, and your sphere was asset managers, right? And one of the things you did when you came here to Signature, and I heard you calling, is you were actually reconnecting with asset managers that you had worked with. So a sphere can really be anything, any source of business that you've had, or a group of people.
And this is the time to do it, right? This is the time to reconnect with asset managers before
They have assets.
Yeah, and everybody else hits them up with everything else. So, first in is the best in.
Janet, you have always had a referral business from people that you've known throughout the years. How do you work your sphere?
I'm not really working them anymore. Most of my people are in their forever homes.
What a nice way
Moving
to
from
say
there
that.
to the nursing home.
That's when she's going to cash in,
See?
folks.
And now, so wait a minute, hold on. There's a source of business.
It is a
nursing
source.
homes.
Yes.
Who's
I'll
come
add
in
that to the
lately,
list.
right? Seriously, right?
Can I get a list of the people who just checked into your
Yes.
nursing home?
So I think a few things is that if you're there and you're watching this and you don't have your sphere yet, don't feel overwhelmed. Everyone started with one person, and the goal for me has always been to grow any agent that I work with to 400 people.
Where is everybody's sphere? Where is it?
It's people around them. I mean,
Where can they find them?
everywhere.
Where? No, it's one place.
Where?
Their phone.
Their phone.
Your
That's true.
sphere of influence is in your phone.
Yep.
if you go look at your contacts, that's where you will find a lot of people, probably 80% of them, Pareto's rule, that you'll find in there that are your sphere.
You know where else they're at? Your checkbook.
Well, maybe.
Right? No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Everyone
People
that you
you do
wrote a
business
check to, or if you still write checks or gave a debit card to, is economically vested in your success because you give them money all the time. That lady at the grocery store, while she doesn't, always has a conversation with you, her job is economically invested in your success. And so when she asks you what you're having for dinner, ask her where she lives, because that's the whole point. But I've always felt that 400 people means that I could talk to 20 people Monday through Friday every week. That's 20 people a day. 20 times 20 is 400. You can add that up on your
I've got a
phone.
lot of people too, your hairdresser, your manicurist. I sold my manicurist a house,
Mine too.
you
But
know.
insurance agents,
I'm
right?
still trying to sell my manicurist a house.
Insurance agents that, call you up and want to give you a better rate and stuff like that, and I'd love
Both
to give you
business,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, let's talk.
So SOI, for me, all of these things that we're going to talk about, at the end of the day, when you make contacts or meet people, it should flow back into your SOI. And I think that's why every training class I've ever been to talks about it first. The one right below it is another one we talk about, and that's past clients. People that have literally gone through the process with you and hopefully had a great experience. And I see all the Yelp reviews that our agents are posting and Zillow reviews and everything else. Those are people that have gone through it. How do you treat them differently?
Well, I would even call the ones that had a bad experience and say, let me try and give
Were
you
there
a
a lot of
better
those?
experience. Oh, there are tons of them. Tons of them. But seriously, I mean, it doesn't matter. If they had if you have their name and number and they know who you are, it no longer is a cold call. It becomes a warm call. So even if they've had a bad experience 5 years ago, they've probably gotten over it.
Yep.
And, give me an opportunity to give you a better experience this time. So it doesn't matter who it is.
He's practiced for this, I can tell. What do you think about past clients?
I think he's called a lot of people that weren't happy with. Janet,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on past clients? Besides that they're all waiting to go to
The nursing
Well,
home.
no, past clients are wonderful. I will tell you, I had a couple that I sold a house to, and I kept in touch with them. Hey, how you doing? Everything okay? Then I sold their son a house. Then, a year or so later, the sister from Tonopah was moving down here, sold her a house. And then about a year after that, sister's son from Tonopah was moving to Vegas. And just friendly little phone calls, Christmas cards, no pushing because I had already sold them a house.
Yep.
And then guess what? The first couple bought another house. Moved their son that I sold
love
the
it.
house to into that house, and then I sold their son's house.
I always like to do, about every 3 years, I like to do a family tree of business. Have you ever done that? You take a client and you put them on a limb, and then you write all of the clients that you've gotten from other people. It looks like a tree at the end of the day, right? And you start sourcing these things back and find out that one person generated 4 or 5 key clients. And what's even better about it is you keep those lists going and you look at the activity where you got the person, you're actually reinvesting into your business of what gave you the business you have.
Yeah.
It's a great process.
They call that doubling down on what works, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this has been working for me. Let me do twice as much of that activity.
So a couple of the other things that we have on this list is FSBOs, which right now in a market where it's a hot seller's market, sellers start to think, I can do this myself, which is great in some ways because they've raised their hand and said, I want to sell my house. I'm just not sure if I want you. And so a great sales agent can go in and actually convince them of why me and why I'm going to protect you from liability. But we have more FSBOs now than we have recently. And the good news is if you get them listed, they're probably going to sell right away. Anyone here doing FSBOs that you know of?
Well, and here's another thing. Sometimes you don't even have to list them. They're adamant they're not going to list, and you can say, can I just see your house? I think your house works for one of my buyers.
And you actually have buyers.
And I actually have buyers, and you can move them right in and charge the FSBO a little more commission for your handling both ends of the deal, and he thinks he's getting a good deal.
Yep.
And that works out well, too. And we have the paperwork for one-time listing agreements that almost every FSBO will sign with no question.
That's a great point because there's nothing that says I couldn't make more than, whatever they're co-oping because now I've brought a buyer that's really here and we're going to put the deal together very
Exactly.
fast. Great point. We have in here, you have open houses and I have high impact open houses. And so I think they're the same in what you meant, but your listing process is that you're going to conduct 1 or 2 open houses around the marketing of the listing to make sure that everyone gets a chance to saturate it. And so that's another major generator of buyers and sellers.
Yeah, so from a listing perspective, open houses are to expose the property to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Our plan is that we list on Thursdays so that we can do an open house the first weekend, an open house the second weekend, so we get 2 open houses within the first 10 days, which I think the first 14 days on the market are critical. In any market, even today's market, I mean, we put a listing on the market last Thursday, and by Monday we had 6 offers, and if we leave it on the market longer, we'll get more offers, right? So it's about exposing it to as many people as possible, getting the best possible offer. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to put a property on the market and then get 6 offers in a hot market like this. Take one of those offers that the seller thinks is great and then wake up the next morning to a better offer, right? So you got to allow enough time for all the people who might be interested in that property to get there. So open houses are good. Also, in this particular open house, we did, and I apologize, we actually listed that house on Tuesday, so it was a full week on the market.
Full week.
Full week.
Tuesday through.
Oh my goodness, that long.
Another week.
So we did 5 open houses. We did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because we were trying to get as much exposure as we could. We were trying to find a buyer for the property as well. And I think if you're consistently doing open houses, you'll get better at them. You'll get better at converting people who walk through the door. That's, I think, is the key. Is you're going to get a lot of people that come in, but the question is, can you convert them?
Yep.
And so I think open houses is a way to definitely generate business by working on your conversion, by asking the right questions at the right time to get people interested in writing offers.
So the difference between an open house is where I have signs in my trunk, I have a table in my car, and I go and I just throw them up, and it's spur of the moment, and we just have it for 3 hours. And that's it. That's just an open house.
Waste of time.
Well, not really. In this market, it's easy to show. I mean, someone may show up. Buyers are out walking and pounding the pavement. It could happen.
Look at all the food you're leaving on the table.
I didn't take any cookies to this one.
Yeah.
And so then a high impact open house is where I'm door knocking, I'm phone calling the neighborhood, I'm marketing the open house on social media sites. I've got more than 3 signs up. I prepared the home for the property, and I'm going to hold it multiple days so that I get a high impact on the neighborhood for those buyers and sellers to come through. And I think that's what you're planning for. You're doing it at a high level.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We do door knock. We do all the other things.
You have to.
You have to.
I mean, you're crazy if you don't. If you're just putting up a couple signs and hoping that someone shows up, you might as well sitting at home watching TV.
Well, you should be calling your sphere.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, but no, they're not, right? They open
While you're at home.
right? They do the open house. They put everything up there, and then they sit there and they don't do anything because they want to be prepared for that one person that may show up, that may be driving around in the area, that has the gumption to go even in the house and talk to a stranger.
Gumption.
Gumption,
You like
yeah.
that?
Let me look that up.
So here's one of the things I like to do when I'm holding an open house. I think the biggest thing right now is availability to inventory that isn't already saturated with buyers. And so when I go into a neighborhood to hold one, and when my team does it, the first thing I pull up is all of the expireds in the neighborhood that haven't sold, all of the withdrawn unconditionally, not conditionals, that have sold, and they're the first door I'm going to knock on because they said, I'm going to sell my house, maybe, but I'm upset. And if I knocked on the door and said, hey, I'm Chris Signature, I'm holding an open house, and there's a really good probability the buyer's not going to like my house at all, would you be okay if I showed your home today?
Yeah.
I didn't ask you to sell it. I didn't ask you to pay me a co-op. Nothing like that yet. But would you be okay if I showed it? And when that buyer walks into the front door of my open house and I say, hey, listen, do you like this home? And they say no. And I say, well, I've got a property down the street that isn't on the market. Can I take you to it? Did I just form a better connection with that buyer?
You're going to do it with those. You're also going to do it with every vacant property within a mile
Absolutely.
of the house.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you got to have the ability to go, oh, well, I know I previewed these 2 houses before the open house, and this one might fit your needs better. Let's drive over, take a look at that real quick.
Yep.
Shut the door, put a sign on the door. I'll be back in 10 minutes, and go over to the other place.
The whole thing is I did this open house waiting for a buyer to come in or a seller to come in, and they actually show up, right? Mm-hmm. I did all this marketing. They show up, and what do? I show them the sign-in sheet. I say, take a look around the house, and then they leave. I was waiting for that person. Yeah. And so I always look at it that I have 3 minutes in which to sell them on me. And that's the whole reason I did the open house. And when they say, yeah, I'm ready to go buy, the open house is over. You know, unless I brought someone else with me. I'll shut it down right then. I'll be like John Taffer, shut it down. Because that buyer is the whole reason I held it open. Let's talk about a couple of other ways to generate buyers and sellers. I always have liked cold calling, just listed, just solds.
Cold call.
Have you ever just listed, just sold? So I list a home in the neighborhood, I get a phone list from my title company or my dialer.
So circle prospecting.
Circle prospecting, and I make just listed calls, but it may not be my listing. It's anyone's listing.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm only doing it to meet new people to generate deals from, right? But it's a pretty easy way to prospect, right?
This just sounds like too much work.
I know, it is a full-time job.
Every day.
Every day.
I got to do this every day.
Every day.
Look, here's the thing that you got to do. Remember, no one knows, or a lot of people don't know. The majority of people don't know that you're in real estate. And those that have a need,
He's got it on his shirt.
Well, it doesn't still. Yeah, but he's sitting in an office, right?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay. But most people that have a need.
Do you have it on your shirt?
No.
Oh.
Could you
Couldn't fit it.
Could you see it with this pattern?
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I'll stop.
So there's a people that have a need for our services.
Yep.
And they don't know who you are. So it's up to you as a realtor to go out and find those folks that have a need that you can fill. You know, see a need, fill a need, if you remember the cartoon from Robots, is very apropos here.
He's quoting Disney.
But seriously, because you have to make yourself known to those people that have a need.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just sitting in an office somewhere or in an empty open house, twiddling your thumbs and going broke.
Or home.
Or home, going
Well,
broke.
and
So-
I will tell you another thing, like, people need to know you're in real estate, that's a good point. For years, don't do it anymore because I lost the back. I wore my name badge religiously. And I was in Macy's one day, and this gal comes up and says, "May I help you?" She's young, and she starts talking, and she says, "Are you in real estate?" And I said, "Yes."
No, I just wear these badges for fun.
And anyway, she said, "My husband and I want to buy a house."
Yeah.
How cool.
So, well, unfortunately, I didn't qualify for a thing, but I did find them a rental.
Sure.
And, but she could have been a viable buyer. You
Yeah.
just never know.
Well, I
Let
took
people know.
I
Wear
took
your
a
name
listing
tag.
in front of Smith's once because I had my shirt on, had my name tag on, and this 80-year-old man came walking up to me as fast as he could. He could not hear a single thing, so he literally yelled at me, "Are you a real estate agent?" And I was like, "Whoa, I'm sure I'm getting punked right now. This is not real." And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Follow me." And he turned around and started shuffling away. And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait, come back here. I can't." I was on my way somewhere. I couldn't go with him, but I called my assistant. She came right over, took him to his house, and we took that listing. So that was solely by having
Yeah,
just
that
my
works.
name.
I
on
mean,
my
it doesn't
shirt.
work
That's
every time, but hey.
But at least it's another pull in the water, so to
Well,
speak.
we just don't know what's going to work. Though.
Exactly.
You just never know what's going to work.
I know what's going to work, and this is the truest thing. This is the grassroots of real estate. For 50 years, it's worked. Door knocking. Door knocking is
Agreed.
still the fastest, easiest way to get listings in any market that you're ever in, because you literally have trapped them in their home, right?
If they answer the door.
Well, if you keep knocking on the
I mean,
door,
that's-
someone will
that's
answer.
That's 90% of
It may be Metro, but somebody's going to answer.
90% of the thing is if they answer the door, you're going to have the ability to sell them and let them know who you are.
Well, the reason why I like door knocking so much is because it's the most aggressive form of prospecting. When you show up to my house and knock on the door and say, "Hey, I'm here to see if you'll list your home," and I'm actually thinking about it, or I've considered it, or now because of you I am, how can I not say that you're an aggressive agent? You literally knocked on my door out of the blue. And that's what everyone wants. And if I'm trying to charge more for my service, which I always am, and I show up and I do things like that, am I worth it versus somebody else?
And here's what's even better about this is there are some very high-end, high-profile agents
Yep, that door
knock religiously every single day in the area that they want to get listings in. And
it's absolutely true.
So it's not beneath anybody to door knock.
Well, the key there is they do it.
Every
I don't
day.
know if they do it every day, but they do it on a schedule. Like they don't just go door knock one time and then
then
go,
say
"It
it
didn't
didn't
work. I went door knocking. I knocked on 10 doors. Nobody answered, so it didn't work for me."
Yeah.
It's not, look, it's got to be in your schedule. It's got to be in your calendar. You got to be doing it certain days of the week at certain times, that you got to move those times around depending on when people are going to be home.
Linda brought up a great point, and how do you door knock with COVID?
Wear a mask.
And that's true. And I think the whole thing is, it's the way in which you door knock is important. I knock on the door and I step back, right? I can be 6 feet and still be at their front door or ring the doorbell. And not everyone has a ring doorbell that can see me anyway. But Mike Yaruski is one of our agents.
If you're too close to the ring doorbell, they can't see you.
Yeah. Thanks. Mike Yaruski is one of our agents, and he is door knocking every day, taking high dollar listings right now. And he has done it completely through the pandemic. And he's probably had one of the best years in real estate as one of our top agents.
Well, he took a listing through a window once, right?
Yeah,
During
he knocked
COVID.
on the window. And
He
the
did
guy
what
stood
everyone
behind
said
it.
couldn't happen. You can't
Yeah.
take listings during COVID. He did it
He
through
did
a
it.
window.
But the whole point is, Linda, you're absolutely right. You got to be safe for yourself and safe for them. And I think now masks have become a fact of life. Everyone expects it, and when they see somebody, they'll talk to anybody with one. But knocking on the door and being ready to have a conversation is all it really takes. Now, the one thing I do like, and I had it on here, is using analytics for your benefit. And every title company I know of has some type of system that will tell you most likely sellers to move, or that they had a marriage or baby or death in the family or any of those things. Divorce is
yeah.
Tom
As
is checking
Tom
in
likes
on.
to work on.
And you can actually door knock a little bit more strategically. But the whole point is, it's the person down the street from that house that I didn't door
Right.
knock that's ready to list.
And here's the thing, if you're gonna walk by a door, why not knock on it?
Yeah. Brandon brought it up yesterday in his class. He said, if you're putting out open house signs and you put them on a street and there's a home in front of that street, why wouldn't you knock on the house and say, hey, I'm here holding an open house. Do you mind if I put the sign out? By the way, when do you plan on moving?
Yeah.
It's a good sign.
Well, that's the other part. I mean, door knocking's one thing. Being willing to physically walk, knock on the doors, and talk to people is one thing.
Yep.
There's also this idea of conversion, though. Like, there's certain things that you say, certain questions that you ask. There's things that you need to do while at the door, while face to face, and one of them is, when do you plan to move?
Yep.
How long have you lived here? If you did move, where would you go? Right? There's a script, and as you knock on more doors, as you talk to more people, you become better at that script of knowing what to say, when to say it, and it then starts to convert to business. The high-end guys taking high-end listings,
Yeah.
this isn't the first door they've knocked on. They didn't just drive down the street and go, hey, I think I'll knock on the door. They've been doing it for months or years, right? So they know how to do it.
So I trained a brand new agent once. This guy's name was Mark. He was a very interesting guy. Came from a nightclub background, and we went through his business sources, and he finally said, I'm going to use door knocking as my business source. It seems really easy. Anyone can do it. I said, great, go ahead. So he goes out door knocking for the day. He comes back that afternoon, and this is something that I see every time someone door knocks. He comes back with a listing. And not just a listing, $3.5 million home. And I'm like, Mark, how did you get this? And he goes, well, I went and decided to door knock, so I picked the highest income area I could find. And he said I had to go through 3 gates, a guard gate, a second gate, and a third gate. And he goes, funny enough, they let me in all of them.
That's weird.
And he goes, and I walked up to the door, this mega mansion I walk up to, and then this was 7 years ago, and he says, I knock on the door, and he says, they answered. And they asked me who I was, and I said, I'm Mark, I'm a real estate agent, I'm here to list your house. And so you won't believe it, they invited me in. And he says, I walked in with the contract, I said, I want to list the house. He says, I didn't have a CMA, I wasn't prepared. And he goes, you won't believe it, they signed it. And so 2 days later, he holds an open house on the same listing with 3 gates. And I'm like, man, that's going to be a hard open house to hold, right? And he actually took his mother along with him to the open house. She was also a realtor. And what do you think happened? Buyer knocks on the door, they open the door, and his mother double ends the deal that he got off of door knocking. $3.5 million deal.
Good deal.
7% commission too.
Wow.
He didn't know any different.
He didn't know any different. But the whole point was, it doesn't matter, you're right. As long as you're out there doing it, it happens. And I know that's one of those wonderful stories.
Yeah.
But the point is that the people out there door knocking are
Yeah,
taking
but those
listings.
wonderful stories don't happen unless someone at least tries it and does it.
Sure. Let's go back to some of the other things that we have on this list, and one of them that we used to do a lot of was seminars.
Yeah.
We used to have buyer and seller seminars about how to invest in real estate, and we would hold them in an office training room just like this, and we'd have a lender come in, and we'd have maybe a title person come in and explain part of it, but we'd get these groups of buyers and sellers that just wanted someone to explain the process. And we have a ton of agents out there that understand how it works, and it's very easy to do.
Yeah, so we have held first-time homebuyer seminars often in my career. That's always been one really easy seminar to hold. And I told you while we were sitting here before this started that yesterday that we were able to put a buyer under contract. And this buyer happens to be someone who attended our first time buyer seminar 2 years ago. And she's been working on her credit.
Yep.
And finally got her credit fixed. Prosperity helped her get that fixed. Got her qualified. Her and her husband got her under contract yesterday. So Sexy Sugar, that's her email address, is under contract.
Well, and here's another thing too. Not a lot of agents will work renters, but when you're talking to a renter, if you're doing it correctly, if you're counseling them, if you're making them aware of this is what's happening in the rental market and stuff, and then you go show rental properties and they go, oh, this is trash, oh, somebody else already rented it. For years, my sphere of influence was the Nellis community. Mm-hmm. And I'd have these people come in, they were in the Air Force and they knew they weren't going to be here long and they didn't want to buy. Well, I didn't mind showing them rentals because I knew they had a friend in Germany or a friend in Japan who would be coming in and might want to buy a house and they would refer me. But I'm telling you what, most of those renters that I took out became buyers because there were a lot of rentals on the market. Most of them were really trashy and really expensive. And after one full day of looking at rentals, and I gave my military people one full day, I wouldn't do that for your average Joe Blow living in the city. But they'd say, do you think maybe we could look at something to buy? Do you think we could buy? We still have a house in South Carolina. Well, we can't find anything we like. We go straight to my favorite lender, and lo and behold, they became buyers.
Love it. And you're doing your part of helping with the moratorium, because if I can get a tenant who's not paying their rent that's keeping that money, they now have money for a down payment in some cases.
I hope.
Right?
I hope they're saving.
But think about that. If they're saving that money and they're just not giving it to the landlord because of that reason, they now have a down payment, I can get them out of the house. I've done everyone a benefit.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing. Shelley brought this up at the last
Right?
meeting. Absolutely, I agree with you. But I had to have a consult with a client yesterday for an agent. She was not happy. But she did not have the money for the down payment on the house that she wanted to buy. But guess what? She's getting a stimulus check, and as soon as she gets her tax return, she'll be in there. So
that's pretty good.
sometimes renters are golden.
Well, and if you didn't watch our meeting, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 meetings ago where Erica Aki was being interviewed, I mean, that's how she literally built, she was a top producing agent in the company last year. That's literally how she built her business. And so if you didn't watch that or listen to her, again, that's on the YouTube channel.
What I like best about rentals is the MLS actually tells me when their lease is up.
Yeah.
So if I start marketing them 3 months before the lease is terminating because it's recorded in the MLS, I literally have an archive of people I can door knock.
And take it one step further. Research who actually owns that property and call them up and say, hey, I know the renter you have currently, their lease is almost up because they've been there for almost
And they're not going to renew because they told me.
Right? So, have you thought about selling your house?
No, I actually found that out. I'm not saying just say
Please
that.
don't share that information
Yeah.
if you know that information without permission.
So a couple of other things that are on here that I think are just things that we just pass by and don't think about, and one of them is garage sales. Why do people hold garage sales? Usually to declutter their house in preparation for listing it, and it's also a way to meet bulks of people at one time. And so it's a way to get business by stopping by a garage sale and just, don't buy the junk that they have and take to your house. Make contact with them and do that. Mini storage facilities. So when people are planning on moving, they go to a mini storage facility and rent a storage unit. People may be living in them now because of the cost of houses have gone up so high. But the whole point is that's another group. Civic business groups, small business groups, networking groups is one of the things that you put on here. But those are sources of business if you get into a networking group.
Yeah, so I got to tell you, based on the pandemic, and Janet, you're a perfect example of this because every time you hold a social event at your office, it's a huge hit.
Yeah.
And I think moving forward as the state starts to open up more, we're at 50% now.
Yeah.
I seen an agent post over the weekend that the strip is full and restaurants are open and things are starting to happen. I think my gut feeling tells me that social networking, getting out there and meeting in different groups is what will propel someone's business very quickly.
Absolutely.
So I think if you can get out there, get involved in some type of social networking, meeting with people, your business could do very well this year.
So I have on here as well. I mean, these are all just sources of businesses that you can get business from. But I love that you brought it up. Name badges. Name badges do show people that you're in business. Car magnets. I see people wrap their cars now, like the entire car, not just the back window, the entire car. There's a guy. I saw him on the freeway the other day. He says, the guy, so when you ask him, do you have a person? He's like, yeah, I'm the guy, right? He wrapped his entire truck, whatever works for you.
His name is the guy?
The guy, yeah, because do you have a guy? I'm the guy, right? There's also, you brought up attorneys. So finding people in similar fields that have both groups of clients, attorneys, accountants, financial planners.
Yes, financial planners are big.
Insurance agents.
Yes, all of those are huge. Because look, they have a knowledge, especially if you have a financial planner that has a good book of clientele, and then they need to put some money somewhere. And they want to go into real estate, and if you're not the guy for the financial planner to give, then you need to reach out to those folks and say, hey, I would like to talk to you about doing some swapping of service. I got people that I know that would love to talk to a financial planner that may not have even thought about it. If you want to give me some, tit for tat, quid pro quo.
And you're right, because let's say that I go to a farmer's insurance agent and he already has a real estate professional, then I move over to State Farm and see if they have one, because it's a business that we're going to refer back and forth, and we all love referrals. One of the other things that's on here that I think is kind of interesting, and it's retiring or out-of-state agents. And agents in other fields, meaning that they're just property managers or they're just commercial. What happens to their residential referrals? Because everyone has them, right? And it's about making that connection. Retiring agents has always been one of my favorite things, is because people build these incredible databases and they decide that they're going to retire. They really have no plan for the database in most cases.
Yeah, they should sell it.
Yeah, or build a referral relationship with that agent where they receive residual checks for a period of time. I love that too.
Sure.
What else can you think of that's on here? I won't read everything on the list. I love free and clear homes, right? The ones with the most equity that are completely paid off. I mean, what bigger motivator could you have?
Well, in today's market, they can make the most money possible, and if they're paid it off, they're money conscious people, so it probably makes sense.
They could put it into Bitcoin.
Here's the I think here's the hard part, Chris. You just read off a list of how many things are on there.
I have, I think on this list I have 60 things total.
So as an agent in the company, or as an agent that's trying to get back into business or trying to get their business started, 60 things is overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I mean, I can't do all.
Especially if you do one of them.
But
what do I do?
Every place you go.
All of them.
Look, I take my great shirts to the dry cleaners, right? And at the dry cleaners, they have my card.
Why do you do
Starch.
that? Starch. Okay.
Holds the shirt up.
But if,
It's a wrinkle.
it doesn't. It holds me up half the time. But if you're not going to the dry cleaners, the barber shop, every place that you go do business,
Yeah.
your card should be there, and you should have some kind of relationship with your vendors, because they're vendors of yours.
Great.
That you should have that relationship. So it's
One of the, go ahead, Janet.
I'm going to tell you one that you haven't mentioned. I've talked about this before. One of the things that worked well for me, and I did it for a number of years, is farming out-of-state owners.
Love it, yeah.
But you have to be careful, because you can't just farm an out-of-state owner. You need to know his neighborhood. You need to have somewhere on a little spreadsheet the average sales price is whatever, so that you can talk knowledgeable to them. But you can get those lists from your title company, and anybody that lives out of state. Yeah, they know nationwide there's a housing shortage if they read the paper or watch the news, but they may not know what's happening in Las Vegas. Write them a short little letter, short and sweet. If you go through, the market's this, and houses are this, and the da-da-da, for a whole page, it's going in the garbage. Got this from Roger Butcher. You remember Roger Butcher? This was early 90s, late 80s, I can't remember.
I think he's in the old folks home now, right?
I think he's 6 feet under, actually. But anyway, so short and sweet, 2 or 3 sentences. Have you thought about selling your home at? Put in the address. The market in Las Vegas is really hot. We're short of inventory.
It's really hot.
Short and sweet. Put
it's on
in
fire.
put in 2 business cards, seal it up, put it in an envelope, hand address the envelope.
Yeah.
and put a real stamp on it. Now, I will tell you, I have two really good success stories I'm going to tell from that. One, I did that. The owner happened to be in Hawaii. He called me, said, I have the house. Tenants are moving out, and I'm coming into Vegas. I'd like to meet with you about listing my property. So we went over there and looked at it. It was trashed. Oh, God, it was so trashed. But it was in a really great neighborhood. So helped him do the repairs, put him in touch with people, listed it, sold it myself. Well, I say I had a partner at the time. We sold it. And then about 7, 8 months later, he called back and said, you girls did a nice job on my other house. I have another one that the tenant's moving out and I'm getting rid of. Listed that one, sold it. About a year later, he called and said, I'm selling my last property in Vegas. And these were all very nice houses. So really out of one stamp, I got 4 deals.
Wow.
And then I had another one. This was in a neighborhood off Craig and Lamb. I call it the perfume neighborhood because the streets were all named after perfume, like Lancome, Jeantou, whatever, Taboo. And this guy was in the Air Force, and he
I
bought...
could not name 3. I couldn't do that. There's no way. Good job. I was impressed that you could name.
He just
3.
thought they were interesting names.
Okay, hold on. You're messing up Janet's story.
Yeah, I'm telling my story.
Go ahead.
So anyway, when he
Story
was
time,
in the
Janet.
Air Force, he bought 3 houses in this neighborhood. They were all 2 stories with detached garage in the
Nice,
front.
yeah.
And he retired, moved to Montana. Sent him a letter. He called and said, I have a house I want to sell. I'm going to come in, see what work needs to be done. He brought a sleeping bag, a cot, a coffee pot, and a radio. And he stayed in the house, and when he got it all fixed up and painted and whatever he wanted to do, he'd call and say, okay, come over, I'm ready to list it. Well, guess what?
What?
He had 3 houses, and I listed all 3 of them, not at the same time.
Yeah,
One
he had to
like-
move into each one, right?
Well, he had to wait for the tenants to move out, and then he would come down, move in, and he'd do all the repairs himself and put it on the market.
awesome.
So those were 2 stamps that resulted in 7 deals for me.
But how many stamps did you have to send out?
Didn't count that out.
I mean, but it's more than 3, right? The whole.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta do more than
Agents,
just- yeah.
here's what happens is they get this great idea, this rabbit runs by, and they chase that rabbit, and the rabbit is to send out these. You have to do it consistently.
Yeah.
You can't just do it once or twice and go, it didn't work for me.
You gotta commit
right?
to
I mean,
it.
you've got to put it into it's got to be part of your business
Usually
plan.
sent them out once a month in batches of 50. Some months we had
That's
no
pretty
phone
consistent.
calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy to do too.
And some 6 months would go by, we had no phone calls, and then all of a sudden we'd get 3 listings, bam. So it just,
So
But you
have
did
to
it
work it.
consistently
You have to
every
work
month.
it. You
So
to
I have
work it.
some upgrades that same program now that you can do. So have you ever gotten a wedding invitation or graduation announcement or a birthday card?
Yeah,
Yeah. And what do you like about the envelopes?
Not a damn thing.
nice quality.
They're nice quality, colored. They have embossing. Embossing is that?
Yeah,
that's right.
And they have a little
A little Hallmark sticker on the
Hallmark
back.
sticker on the back. They look like something that you have to open, right? And the biggest problem with sending mailers just out generically is people don't open them.
So I can't just take a piece of paper and trifold it and put a
You
sticker on
can.
it?
You can if you just want to get it out there. Or you can send a really high quality envelope that you're guaranteeing someone's going to open.
We could call this a high impact
Mailer?
mailer.
Yes, you could. The other thing that I've noticed that works really well is pretty much, Las Vegas, the cool thing about it is it's a melting pot of people that come from all over the world. And they're from somewhere else. I'm from Las Vegas, so I can't say that. But if you come from somewhere else and you go back there quite often, the cool thing about doing out-of-state mailers is you send a mailer to them saying, hey, I'm a real estate agent in Las Vegas. I noticed that you're from my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin, and I want to know, do you want to sell your house? I mean, you have a connection.
Immediate connection.
But if Tom's from Madison, Wisconsin, and he's going back there next week, what could he do? He could put on his flowery shirt and go door knock their house, right?
Yeah,
Well, and
absolutely.
sometimes that connection means a lot. Now, years
It
ago,
does.
there was an agent that was in the same Roger Butcher seminar I was in, and she was from New York. And so she farmed owners who lived in New York, and she'd start her short, sweet little letter, hey, fellow New Yorker. And that's all she did was work.
Gets
New
you right here
Yorkers
every time.
Who owned property in Las Vegas. She had a booming business. She really
It works.
did.
It absolutely works.
And let me just add one more thing. I'm not one that is asking title companies to do stuff for me because I'm more independent and I don't like being beholden to anybody. But we have programs like Remind and RPR and Realist that allow you to find all that same information that you get from the title company,
Yep.
and you can get it yourself and not be beholden to anybody and get, the information that you pulled up is real. Just saying.
That's
Sure.
what it's called.
So I have two last ones that I want to share.
I've got one more I want
Okay.
to share too, so you go first.
Hurry.
My favorite, the one that always generates business, there's never been a question, is a 100 contact challenge. If you ever want to make sure that you leave today with a source of business that you're going to get paid on, sit down and make 100 complete contacts, meaning
In a day.
You actually
in a day.
talk to
In
someone.
one day,
Talk
you got
to
to talk to
someone.
100 people where you ask them, do you know anyone looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? And they actually answer you.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible not to get a deal from doing that challenge. And the second one, Janet, you'll remember this. Everyone had a specialty in our business at one time. They specialized in something. Golf course communities, 55 and over communities, high rises, certain parts of town, out of state, out of country, whatever.
Farms?
But no, just a niche.
Got it.
A niche
Oh, yeah.
that I'm really proficient in, where I've created a source of business. That seemed to I remember everyone had their
I had one.
bailiwick, right?
Yeah.
What was yours?
Crack houses.
Well, I can believe that.
And they became
Income producing properties.
They become REOs.
But you got to remember that those properties cause a horrific headache for
Yeah.
people about how to deal with the meth that was in it and things like that. And if you know everything about it, short sales were your specialty. I mean, you made a killing on short sales because you knew everything
I don't know
about it.
about killing, but we did a lot.
Yeah. But anyway, consider that.
All right,
Go
let me
ahead.
say this. So I asked the question earlier, you got 66 things on there, or 60, however many. It's a lot. What do I do? It's overwhelming. All these great stories. Like, I want to do all of them. I'm going to start today, and I'm going to get
No.
committed.
Nope.
And then you don't do any of them because there's too many. Here's my suggestion. Take 5 things that you want to try to do in the next quarter. Remember, this is the end of the first quarter, moving to the second quarter. I want you to pick 5 money-making activities that you are either you've tried to do it and you just need to do it better. It needs to become a high impact in your business. I want you to pick 5 things and only 5 things, and I want you to get really good at doing those 5 things this next quarter.
Yeah.
Don't try to do 66 things. That's not going to work. You got to get really good at least 5 things. And what I tell people is you should be ready to do any of these 5 things at the drop of a hat. So
Absolutely.
if door knocking is one of your things that you're going to do, then you need to have flyers that are done. They're generic flyers with your information.
Door hangers.
They're available. They're in the trunk of your car, so that when you're driving to that listing appointment that you've been trying to get for 2 months, and they call and say they've got to cancel, and you have an hour and a half on your calendar for real estate, but you can't go to the listing, you pull into any neighborhood, I don't care which one it is, and you start door knocking that neighborhood because you have flyers available in the car, and you don't go, oh, man, I would love to go door knocking right now, I just don't have anything to leave when I go, so I guess I can't do that. 5 things, be prepared at the drop of a hat. If you're gonna do the mailers, which Janet is on my niche now, I'm gonna do that this next quarter for my team, because I think that's,
huge.
I never met this guy that's in the grave. What's his name again?
Roger Butcher.
Yeah, I never knew the guy, but it's a great
Great idea.
Great idea. Short, sweet. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for the next quarter. I'm going to develop a template that this is exactly what it's going to say. We're going to fill in the blanks. We're going to mail it. We're going to write them, and we're going to do it for the next quarter. And I'll report back next quarter how we did with that. But pick 5 things. Don't overwhelm yourself. 5 things. Be prepared to do them at a drop of a hat. If it's an open house, Chris, it's an open house. Signs are in the trunk of the car. I'm driving down the road and I see this opportunity and I take that opportunity rather than go, well, I don't have my signs with me.
I used to want to move into the house, not like your client did, but I mean like literally, I left the signs at the house, I left the table at the house, and every day that's where I reported
Well,
for
why
work.
did you do that?
Because I had nothing else to do.
Well, because you
so I
had to go to the
sell
house.
something. Yeah.
You had to go to the house to get the stuff anyway.
Yep.
So now you're there and you might as well do the open house, right?
The worst week I had in real estate, I had no deals, I had no clients, I had nothing going on, and so I held an open house
That was last
all
week.
day. Yeah, it was last week. All day, every day for 7 days, and at the end of that, I had 3 listings and 2 buyers.
Yeah.
And the point was, I had nothing else to do, so why not go out and do something? So hey guys, everyone's going to ask me for this list of 60 things, and it's really cool that before the year started, Todd and I did a business planning series. This was my video. And so it's on our YouTube channel. It's video number 2 of the series. I have every one of the items on the list. I spend about an hour going through how to do each one of them. And so if you want, go back and watch that video and take some time and digest these. And like Todd said, pick your 5. And we've proven to you that no matter, what your item is or what you decide to do, if you're doing it, it will generate residual business.
That will.
And I'm going to leave this with the best quote I've ever heard. We were at Inman.
See a need, fill a need?
No, we were at Inman in New York, all 3 of us, and a lady, a big executive with Zillow, got up on stage, and she shocked the crowd when she said, every lead that Zillow sells was the failure of an agent to connect with their base.
Yep.
And so instead of buying leads from them, go connect with your database.
Agreed.
Yep,
Right?
I agree.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. And if you need us, we're all here to support you. Give us a call, send us a text, write us an email. Have a great week.
Bye.
See ya.
Were we supposed